Dr. M.A. Rao, President IAHP National and whole of the CEC committee. So today's event is specially organized by IAHP Delhi State Branch. So we'll start the day with handing over the mic to Dr. Geeta Mungia and IAHP Delhi State Branch. So a video of the garlanding would be played, and after that, first half, Dr. V.K. Chauhan sir, who needs no introduction, would be introduced by the Delhi State Branch, and then second part would be by Dr. Muktinder Singh. So topic of the day is on dyscalculia. It is a learning disability. So hope we all learn together. And at the end, there would be a question answer session. So Delhi State Branch, with the permission of Dr. V.K. Gupta sir, Dr. M.A. Rao sir, and whole of CEC committee, I, on behalf of IHP Scientific Committee, invite Delhi State Branch to host today's event. Dr. Geeta Mungia, please.
Welcome everyone. Thank you, Dr. Muktinder sir. Dr. Muktinder, आप please वो video share कर दीजिए और
Sure.
after that Dr. Jyoti Sharma will give short introduction of Dr. Vijay Chauhan and Dr. Muktinder Singh.
Sure. I'm starting that video.
Okay. Dr. Jyoti Sharma, please आप introduce कराइए आज हमारे speakers का.
Yeah, ma'am. Thank you. Ma'am, may I audible?
Yes,
Yes,
you're.
Okay. A very good evening to all of you. Myself, Dr. Jyoti Sharma, Finance Secretary, IHP Delhi State Branch, and I welcome Professor Dr. V.K. Chauhan, former principal of Dr. B.R. Sur Homeopathic Medical College. He is also worked as professor in medicine and pediatrics at Nehru Homeopathic Medical College, Delhi. Currently, he is working as president, IAHP Delhi State Branch. Dr. Chauhan sir was chosen for WHO fellowship in 1996 and underwent training at UK and USA. As HOD Department of Medicine at Nehru Homeopathic Medical College, he was engaged in teaching undergraduate students and PG students of different institutions, conducting special arthritic clinics and involved in arthritic research project under Delhi Homeopathic Anusandhan Parishad, conducting CME programs for various organizations. He's also been involved as ex-member of CCRH Scientific Advisory Committee, ex-member governing body CCRH, member Scientific Committee Delhi Homeopathic Anusandhan Parishad. He is awarded as State Award in 2006 by Delhi government for his untiring work in the field of homeopathy. Dr. V.K. Chauhan also published many articles and books related to contemporary practice in the field of medicine and its relevance in the field of homeopathic treatment, including his bestseller, Homeopathic Principles and Practice of Medicine. Dr. V.K. Chauhan sir is a dynamic teacher, great mentor, professor who simplifies what often are very complicated and confusing subjects for students and the young homeopaths. Thank you, and we welcome you, sir, in today's webinar.
डॉक्टर ज्योति आप साथ में डॉक्टर मुक्तिंदर का इंट्रोडक्शन दे दीजिए ताकि फिर बाद में कंटिन्यूटी में रह जाएगा उनका.
Okay, ma'am. So we welcome Professor Dr. Muktinder Singh, specialist in classical homeopathy, especially dealing in pediatric cases and behavior problems. Dr. Muktinder Singh is currently working as Professor HOD Repertory in the Department of Repertory at Shri Guru Nanak Dev Homeopathic Medical College and Hospital, Ludhiana. He is a chairman of Scientific Committee IAHP and International Homeopathic Foundation. He's a director of homeopathic care, a chain of pediatric specialty clinics across India. Dr. Muktinder Singh is an experienced, dedicated homeopath lecturer, professor, speaker who has an excellent knowledge of homeopathy, a senior homeopath and a great mentor in homeopathic education, and a well-known name in national and international circle. He was specialized in repetization and a vast experience of healing acute and chronic cases. While in his practice, he has proven himself many times by treating incurable cases successfully, has a special experience in dealing with autoimmune disorders, psychiatric cases, and pediatric pathology. Thank you and welcome you, sir, to today's webinar.
Thank you, Dr. Jyoti.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Dr. Chauhan, sir, please start your screen now. Thank you, Dr. Jyoti. Thank you, Delhi, IAHP, Delhi State Branch.
Dr. Muktinder, sir, thank you so much. My screen is visible to you?
No, you have to share it again. Start sharing. Share screen.
Is it visible now, Dr. Jyoti?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yeah, you can make it full screen and start.
Okay, all right. Is it okay? It looks like full screen.
Yes, yes.
Nice. Thank you so much, Dr. Saab. So, good evening, and thank you very much, everybody, for this today's session. And we are now going to start with the presentation. Today's presentation is dyscalculia. We have taken up with Dr. Muktinder Singh the psychiatric lectures in a form of series. And this is, in that process, is the second lecture. So we are going to complement each other. That is what we have decided. So today's lecture, as we know, is dyscalculia. And we are following the ICD-10 classification. And from ICD-10 classification, this particular topic is at F81.2, which is called as developmental acalculia. So friends, historically speaking, this is very important to know who discovered the dyscalculia. So it was first discovered in 1990 by Solomon Hansen, a Swedish neurologist. What he found in his practice was that it was possible for a person to have impaired mathematical abilities that did not affect the intelligence in general. However, the term dyscalculia was coined in 1940s, but nobody was sure how to define it. By the time 1974, Czechoslovakian researcher Ladislav Koss put the first definition, and according to him, dyscalculia is a structural disorder of mathematical abilities. Structural means, what he means to say that we have the brain, and the brain's function is the mind. So this organ has got some inbuilt problem, anatomical defect, and that defect lies in the parietal lobe. You will see this is the lateral view of the cerebral hemisphere, and this is frontal lobe, temporal lobe, occipital lobe, and this particular area is parietal lobe. And in the parietal lobe, you will find this single star mark area, which is known as supramarginal gyrus, and we have 2-star mark area, which is angular gyrus. In these particular areas in the gray matter, there are certain deficiencies, and those structural deficiencies ultimately give rise to functional disability, and that functional disability is dyscalculia. And Cox research, what he found that this disability, as I was explaining you on the cerebral hemisphere, in certain part of the brain that control the mathematical calculations. So this is the side of the brain which is having the center for mathematical calculations. Now, researchers, they now sometimes use the term maths dyslexia or math learning disability when they are going to mention this condition. However, we have to remember that this particular problem is a genetic problem. It can be an acquired problem also. Acquired problem could be because of cerebrovascular accidents. There is certain blood vessels which are supplying to this area. If they get blocked, or there is a tumor, or there is a degeneration, that can also give rise to similar conditions, but that is a acquired
അതിന് തീ
dyscalculia.
കത്തിക്കാൻ പോയടാ. ആ ചവറെല്ലാം കൂടെ വാരി ഇട്ടിട്ടാണ് കത്തിക്കാൻ. ആ തെങ്ങ്.
Hello. So that is acquired
Please continue.
dyscalculia.
Please continue.
We are going to deal with the genetically the primary which we have dyscalculia. Now, these are certain MRI features, and over here, this is the right cerebral hemisphere, this is the left cerebral hemisphere. At these points, you will find that there is a lack of gray matter is there. Lack of gray matter is there. And this is the parietal area. Especially those children, those kids who are suffering from this disorder, if you see their radiological findings in the form of MRI, you will find PET scan. This is a PET scan. You will find that these areas, they show that there is less of gray matter. And this is the lateral view. This was the coronal section. This was a superior view. This was a lateral view. So in this particular adult, where you find that in the parietal lobe, there is a problem with the gray matter. So, in terms of DSM-5, Diagnostics and Statistic Manual of Psychiatry, which is a American Psychiatric Association which puts forward the document, they have classified dyslexia as a specific learning disorder under 315 with impairment in mathematics. Let us see the definition of dyscalculia. It is a developmental disorder which was first observed during acquisition of mathematical knowledge and is characterized by inability to perform mathematical tasks such as adding, subtracting, and multiplying. When we study dyscalculia, we find that it has got different types also. There are variable types. The important one which we would like to name is number 1 is verbal dyscalculia. And here there is a difficulty in using maths orally. This type of dyscalculia is characterized by a difficulty naming and understanding the mathematical concepts presented verbally. children with this type of dyscalculia can read or write numbers, but they have hard time recognizing them when presented verbally. Now, in this particular diagram, we'll see the children with dyscalculia takes longer than the other normal kids to count the dots pattern. These dot pattern, which you can and I can see very fast and recognize, but these people who have this problem, they will take a longer time than normal. A normal child will instantly recognize the pattern up to 4 dots, whereas dyscalculics tend to count the dots one by one, so they need more concentration and more time. Second type of dyscalculia is practognostic dyscalculia. Here, this type of dyscalculia is characterized by difficulty in translating an abstract mathematical concept into a real concept. And these kids can understand the mathematical concept, but have trouble listing, comparing, and manipulating the mathematical equations. We'll see in this diagram, like which number is taller. These tests are used to determine whether a person's problem with numbers is due to dyscalculia or any other cognitive deficit. So when we are going to see out of 3 and 8, which is taller, the pupil with dyscalculia will answer this question just as quickly and accurately as people without a disability. And second is, which is the greater out of 7 or 9, which is a greater number. Then now the dyscalculics take longer and less accurate answering to this question. They have even more trouble when the difference between 2 numbers is less or very small. Now the third type of dyscalculia is lexical dyscalculia. Here they have difficulty reading mathematical symbols, like 21 can be read as 12, 6 may be read as 9, and 5007 as 507, or you can say 576 as 576. Dyscalculic children have trouble reading and understanding mathematical symbols and numbers, as well as the mathematical expression or equations. A child with dyscalculia can understand the concept when spoken, but they have trouble writing and understanding them. Next is the fourth one, graphical dyscalculia. And here you will find the words or numbers, they have the problem. They have difficulty writing mathematical symbols. Children with this type of dyscalculia are able to understand the mathematical concept very well, but they do not have the ability to read, write, or use the correct corresponding symbols. As we see in 5731, they will split it 5730 and then 1. Or 5073 is 573. They have missed the 0 in between. The fifth type of dyscalculia is ideognostical dyscalculia, and there is a difficulty in understanding the mathematical relationship. Now, they find difficulty in carrying out the mental operations without using numbers to answer maths problem and understanding mathematical concepts. They may have a very difficult time in remembering mathematical concept once they have learned them. They cannot retain it for a long time. And the sixth type is operational dyscalculia. They have difficulty in performing a specific mathematical operation. And here we can see that in this type of dyscalculia, we find that there is a difficulty to complete written or spoken mathematical operations or calculations. Someone with operational dyscalculia will be able to understand the numbers and the relationship between them, but will have trouble manipulating numbers and mathematical symbols in the calculation process. Now, this is a very good picture which shows that this child 2 plus 2 is writing 4 as he has been prompted by his colleagues. Instead of writing 4, he is showing how they have been prompting him. So that is the problem with these kids. The next question comes to our mind that how common is dyscalculia? And what we have understood that and what we know by now is that there are two things, dyslexia and dyscalculia. Both of the things can overlap at times. And both of the things can be present in a child to create a bigger disability in understanding maths-related words. So an estimated 6 to 7% of elementary school children may have dyscalculia. That is how we believe. And 56% of kids with reading disorder also have poor maths achievements, and about 43% of kids having a maths disability or poor reading skills. What is the cause of dyscalculia? So it may run in families. You will find that it is genetically transmitted, or it can be acquired during the pregnancy, like when the baby is born with low body weight or prematurity. There is fetal alcohol syndrome, or certain genetic conditions like Fragile X syndrome, Turner syndrome, Williams syndrome, and in the last, which is acquired, the brain injuries, certain parts of the brain which results in damage, and that can represent with acquired dyscalculia. So the distribution, it is distributed all over the world, and it affects all races and all income groups. This comorbidity you will find with this condition is dyslexia and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Approximately what the Indian figure tells is that we have approximately 5 to 6% in our school kids. This problem is present, and boys and girls have equal distribution. So initially what happens, initial symptoms are when the child goes to school, kindergarten, you will find that they have the problem. They start with having trouble learning to count. They cannot recognize the numbers or symbols, and they struggle to connect a number to amount of things initially. They cannot remember numbers, and sometimes while writing numbers, they skip the numbers, and they find it difficult to recognize patterns and Sort items by size, shape, or color. Once the child is at the higher level of the schools, he finds difficulty in maths concept in day-to-day life, in day-to-day activity, having trouble measuring things, and he struggles with finding his way around and worries about getting lost. There is a difficulty in grasping information shown on graphs or charts, especially, and they ultimately lack confidence in activity that requires estimating speed and distance. The clinical features. The early indications of this particular problem, you will find that there is a slow development of counting and calculating. They use immature calculating strategies. There is a difficulty in retrieving numbers and facts. They have poor memory for multiplication table, and they are poor at detecting their calculation errors. They learn slow, especially the mathematical concepts and concepts of reasoning. Late features will be, there will be academic failure, especially in terms of mathematical aspect, and they have a lot of problem in aligning numbers in proper columns. When they are writing the numbers in columns, they find great difficulty. They have difficulty in sequencing, including right or left orientation. They have a lot of confusion with similar numbers like 7 and 9, 3 or 8. Difficulty with abstract concept of time and direction is also there. Difficulty in addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. All areas of mathematics are involved. On the gross, what are the common symptoms you will find? They have difficulty reading analog clocks, like whatever the wristwatch, the hour needle is smaller, and then that bigger needle is for minutes, and still bigger needle is for seconds. They find difficulty in reading those particular times. They have difficulty in stating which of the two numbers is larger. They have sequencing issues, and they have inability to comprehend financial planning or budgeting. And sometimes even at the basic level, for example, estimating the cost of item in a shopping basket or balancing a checkbook. They have day-to-day difficulty in managing finances. Visualizing numbers as meaningless or nonsensical symbols rather than perceiving them as characters indicating a numerical value, and that's why it is called as maths dyslexia. They have difficulty with multiplication, as we know, subtraction, addition, division, tables, mental arithmetics also. There is inconsistent result in addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, as we already know. And while when they write, reading and recalling numbers is lot of having mistakes. In the areas where we find number additions, substitutions, transpositions, omissions, and reversals, every area is affected. And then there is on the top of it, there is a poor memory, which they cannot retain and retrieve of maths concept. And they are unable to perform math operation. One day, they will learn it by heart, but very soon they will forget the next day, and they will not be able to work out, and they will fail in the test. which they have done yesterday, but then today they can't do it. So they have ability to grasp math on a conceptual level, but an inability to put those concepts into the practice. That is the big problem. They cannot remember it, and they have difficulty with time. Please remember time, direction, recalling schedules, sequence of events, keeping track of time, and so they are frequently early or they are frequently late in their class or in their office. And they have great difficulty in reading maps, finding directions, difficulty in working backwards, especially in time. Inability to grasp and remember mathematical concepts, rules, formulas, and sequences are very common features. So what are the gross skills which are affected by dyscalculia? So they have very poor social skills. They have loss of sense of direction. They have physical coordination problem from right to left, and they suffer from difficulty with money management and time management. So these are the essential core areas of our day-to-day life activities. They all are involved in this particular case. So what is the diagnosis? And diagnosis is at the basic level is a learning disability affecting the normal development of arithmetic skills. It is very simple, looks like simple. A consensus, but unfortunately, there is not a consensus being reached on appropriate diagnostic criteria for dyscalculia. Why? Because mathematics is a specific domain which is very, very complex. And this complex domain includes many different processes such as arithmetic, algebra, word problem, geometry, and ultimately this cumulatively affects the process to build each other with the mastery of advanced skills required in dealing with the mastery of basic skills in the mathematical aspect. So these different components, he has weakness. So each component needs to be evaluated and measured. So it is a difficult problem. Thus, dyscalculia can be diagnosed using different criteria, and frequently this variety in diagnostic criteria leads to variability in identified samples. You cannot have the good sample having the same problem. Each child has his own individual components, and thus variability in the research findings regarding dyscalculia. So you cannot have the very standard outcome in your research methodology, whatever you do. So if this problem persists in children, so generally because there is an anatomical defect, as we know, so its functional defect will persist. So we believe and we understand from the etiological point of view that dyscalculia is a persisting disorder. However, the evidence on the persistence of the dyscalculia remains mixed. Dyscalculia diagnosis for children longitudinally did not persist. Why? The percentage of children who were diagnosed in 2 consecutive years was further reduced as they grew. It is unclear whether this was the result of misdiagnosed children improving in mathematics and spatial awareness as they progressed as normal, or that the subjects who showed improvement were accurately diagnosed. You have to question your diagnosis ultimately. So many children who have been observed in terms of years, there was not a consistent finding that they will persistently having dyscalculia. Majority of them, they have improved, but there can be many reasons why this happened. There could be diagnostic problem, or there can be, maybe there is an anatomical defect which was there. It was slowly compensating somewhere, especially in reference to adults. Let us see what happens. There are very few studies of adults with dyscalculia who have or who had a history of growing up, but such studies have shown that it can persist into the adulthood and it can affect major part of adult life. And most adults with dyscalculia have a hard time processing maths at a 4th grade level. Now, with this basic information, we would like to try to figure it out from the miasmatic point of view. So what is the miasmatic orientation we have for dyscalculia? It is a neurodevelopmental disorder. The body which we have many type of tissue, the highest order of tissue is the nervous system, central nervous system in terms of priority, and it is biological in origin. So it points the syphilitic miasmatic trait. Any destruction in the central nervous system, whether it is a developmental or acquired, points to syphilitic trait. And its manifestation in terms of impairment of mathematics. Impairment of mathematics is a very higher mental function, which is disturbed. That too also points to syphilitic miasmatic trait. So we can safely infer that a calculia or dyscalculia belongs to domain of syphilitic miasmatic preponderance. Now, our miasmatic handling of a case also gives us an idea what is the prognosis. In case of psoric disorder, prognosis is good. In psychotic, it is bad. But in syphilitic miasmatic disorders, we carry overall very, very bad prognosis or poor prognosis. Outcome is poor. And we'll try to classify this particular disorder from the classification what Hahnemann has given us in terms of homeopathic concept of behavior disorder classification. So first axis of classification is somatopsychic disturbances. Second is axis of acute mental disturbances. Third is axis of purely psychic disturbances. You can call it psychosomatic. And fourth is axis of doubtful origin of mental disorder. And here we are going to put dyscalculia in the area of axis of purely psychogenic cluster. Now, coming to the next stage, all this information we have diagnosed a case, and then what should be the aim? Our treatment goal, we have to plan a treatment goal. So therapeutic aim is to treat to limit the disability. Whatever the disability is there, we have to try and figure out how we can make it less troublesome to the child. And what is the intervention planning and what we can do for that? We have to do, number one thing is early identification. The kids, as soon as they go to the school, and some of the kids, they show the signs, we need to evaluate him and fix the diagnosis. And once they are properly diagnosed, then we have to take early supportive treatment measures and try to limit the disability. We try to give the minimal impact of it in his life. So general management includes, we have to be very careful because dyscalculia is not usually a single entity we have. It may be associated with language disorder or with spatial temporal ability disorder. So there can be many other areas are there which are hidden from our vision. At the time of diagnostics, we have to explore those areas and try to figure out accurately what could be the dimension of the problem. And thereafter, we have to make a therapeutic model which are dependent on these associations after proper identification and analysis of the errors which the child is doing in his day-to-day learning activities. Now, a child who has been diagnosed with dyscalculia should receive a special education, and there are the ways that parent can help their child at home. The parents need to understand and use visual aids when solving the problem, using concrete examples that connect the maths to real life, using graphing paper, playing maths related games, and draw pictures of world problems, and using diagrams and draw math concepts. So this is the general outline for that. From the homeopathic materia medica point of view, we have to work up for the remedies for the dyscalculia. And then we go for the repertorial analysis for this. First step is to seek help from the repertory. And here I have tried to gather certain rubrics from Radar. And these are the rubrics. Number one, mind, concentration difficult, calculating while. Second is mind, confusion of mind, calculating when. Third is mind, mathematics, inability for. Fourth is mind, mathematics, inability for algebra. Fifth, mind, mathematics, inability for calculating. Sixth is mind, mathematics, inability for summing up is difficult. And seventh is mind, mistakes, making, calculating in. Eighth is the mind, mistakes, making, calculating in, adding in. Ninth, mind, slowness, calculating when. And 10th is mind, studying, difficulty, mathematics. So I could find these 10 symptoms which were very, very important as I could understand. And at times when we want to keep any particular symptom as a kind of eliminating rubric, to my mind, fifth symptom was a very good symptom to keep is as eliminating symptom. Whenever it is required to use in our further discrimination of the drugs for that reason. Now, if we go for the remedies, we'll find the mind, concentration difficult, calculating while. I find that only one remedy, that too also Nux vomica, is having the highest grade. And second grade is Sorainum here. Only single remedy here anyway. Second rubric, we find 3 second grade remedies. And third rubric, we have only third grade remedies, where Lycopodium, Merc is important, Syphilinum is important. Fourth rubric contains a very, very classical like alumina, causticum, graphitis, and stephus. Algebra, inability for algebra, you find alumina, causticum, graphitis, and stephus. So these are the third rated remedies, but nevertheless, we don't have anything else apart from that. And we have the eliminating rubric where we have calculations are difficult. We have again Nux vomica and Sorainum, second grade remedies. Syphilinum, stephus, third grade remedies. Causticum is also there. Calcarea is also there. Alumina is also there. But they are the third grade remedies here. Lycopodium, Merc are also very, very important drugs we have. Now, the sixth is mathematics inability for summing up is difficult. We have Sumbul and Syphilinum. Califos is also there. And seventh is the mind, mistakes making, calculation in. We have Crotalus horridus, but this is a very, very single remedy which has arbitrary coming up here. But others are consistently present like Lycopodium, Nux vomica, and Sumbul. Mind mistakes making, calculating in. We have Sumbul, again, second grade remedy. Ninth rubric, slowness calculating, where syphilinum is the very, very important, and calcarea is also very important remedy. And mine studying difficult mathematics, only single remedy we have, syphilinum. So let us go for a kind of repertorial analysis. Or before that, let us see how many first grade remedies are there. So we have first grade remedy only Nux vomica. Second grade remedy we have Sumbul, mind mistakes making Sumbul, and single remedy third grade is Syphilinum. So these are few of the remedies which are single remedies we have found. And after repertorial analysis, all the 10 rubrics have been taken, and we have taken top 10 remedies. So what we find, Naxomica is coming here as a first remedy, second Cyplinum, Sorinum, Sumbul, Lyco, Merc, Calcarea, Causticum, Rustox, and Syphilinum. And last one is, I have not been able to read it, let me find out. Maybe Stephis, it is a Stephis. So we have the anti-miasmatic remedy, we have Syphilinum and Sorinum. We have constitutional remedies, Nux vomica, Lycopodium, Merc, Calcarea, and then we have a symptomatic, specifically clinical remedies like Sumbul, we have Causticum, Rustox, and Stephis. So that is what the spectrum of repertorial chart tells us here. So this is the drugs in their serial order, what we find. But here order is not important for us anyway. So most important anti-miasmatic remedy we are going to deal is Sorinum, and then we have the children, the constitutional component of such patients who have Sorinum as a remedy. We find that children are pale, delicate, sickly, sick babies will not sleep day or night, but worry, fret, cry. Child is good, plays all day, restless, troublesome, screaming all night. Body has a filthy odor, and they have very great sensitivity to the cold. So these are the general features. And then we will remember what are the rubrics which we have. We have only 3 rubrics out of 10, and they have total 6 mark. 3 rubrics, 6 mark out of 10 rubrics. So according to the importance of these particular rubrics, we have to select the child who has the problem, but the mental symptoms which we'll find here, they are child is dull, be clouded mind, difficult thinking, children very fretful day and night, peevish, irritable, noisy, easily startled, severe elements from even slight emotions, and they feel restless for days before a thunderstorm, and they have frightful dreams, robbers, dangers, etc., etc. So these type of symptoms are present in Sorinum, and they will pave the way in a suitable case if you find. Second important remedy is the Syphilinum, which is the classical for this particular case, what I find. And we have out of 10 rubrics, you see here the 7 rubrics are covered, and out of 7 rubrics, we have 8 marks. So this is the broadest remedy which we have found in our repertorial analysis. And there is a good amount of mental generals are present, like loss of memory, cannot remember the names, books, persons, place. Arithmetical calculations are difficult according to the Ellen, what we find in Ellen's keynote. And then we'll go for the mind, hopeless, despair of recovery, antisocial, horrible depression, cross, irritable, peevish. So some of the features are antisocial personality traits are there, some hyperactivity traits are there, feels as if going insane or going to be paralyzed, impulsive, impulse to wash hands, terrible dread of night, loss of memory, does not remember faces, names, event, places, but remembers everything previous to his disease. It means if the disease is acquired because of some meningitis or something, then you will find this rubric is, or this symptom is very, very important. But genetically also, primarily developmental defect can also be covered with this remedy. The child is very nervous, laughs or weeps without cause, does not want to be soothed, nightly delirium, syphilitic insanity. Syphilitic insanity is general paralysis of insane, what we have been seen in the area of Second World War, when neurosyphilis was very common. And these are the symptoms which aversion to company, sad, lamenting, we have taken from the Patak, and some of the symptoms we have taken from the Ellens. So symphylinum is one of the very important remedies which we have in our mind. Now we come to the constitutional remedies, and in the constitutional remedy, we found Nux vomica for one particular single symptom, concentration difficult calculating, while 3 plus. So we have in total 4 symptoms or 4 rubrics we have, and out of 4 rubrics, we have total grades 9 numbers, total rubrics 4 out of 10. And we don't have a very clear cut kind of a constitutional approach. Generally, we don't find such kind of a features in the children's, very classical features in the children, but then careful observers and certain doctors who are very careful in their observation can still find out many people. And what the bookish adaptation of Nux vomica personality is that he is irritable, careful, zealous person, dark hairs, hypochondriac, literary, studious person, suffers from lack of exercise, though that is a general character of this particular. And he is a Billy Smith, irritable person, quick, active, nervous. Even the least element affects her greatly, disposed to reproach others. We have fault-finding nature. It is from Materia Medica. Boric, desires brandy, averse to coffee, meat, dreams, business, misfortune, and quarrels. It is from Kent Repertory. So these are the gross symptoms which I could get. There are more than that. Probably Dr. Muktinder is going to touch about it. And then the next constitutional medicine, which is very, very important for us, is the Calcarea carb, which has got syphilitic component and soric component also, because it has got pseudosoric traits, leukophlegmatic, blonde hair, light complexion, and children's, they have flabby muscles, they sweat easily, take cold easily, head sweats profusely, general coldness or single part of body coldness is there. Girls who are fleshy, plethoric, and grow too rapidly. So that is one very important aspect. If you are looking at the male child and female child, feels better in every way when constipated. This is a very peculiar, uncommon, and rare symptom which is here. And the temperament wise, the child is apprehensive. It is from Boric Materia Medica. And mind, fears that she will lose her reason. People will observe her mental confusion, great longing for eggs, craves indigestible things. Alumina is also there here from this symptom. Aversion to meat is from Ellen. And the mental children's, what we find from the Patak repertory is forgetfulness, learns poorly, confused, misplaces words and expresses himself wrongly. Inability to apply himself, sits, breaks, sticks all day long. And then we go to the Beric, forgetful, confused, low-spirited, obstinate, slight mental effort produces hothead, averse to work or exertion. So these are the routine symptoms what we find in reference to our day-to-day Materia Medica, which we generally refer in our clinical practice. Lycopodium is also one of the very, very important remedies which we have, a constitutional remedy, and here it is covering only 4 rubrics, and the strength of that rubric in terms of numerical aspect is the 5 only. Mind, mistakes, making, calculating, 2 numbers are there in the repertorial chart, and rest 1 number each. So here you will find child weak, emaciated, complexion is pale, dirty, unhealthy, temperament is irritable mind and easily angered, and he cannot endure the opposition, greedy, malicious, sensitive, cries when thanks, it is a classical symptom, dread of solitude, desire sweet onions, aggravate, dreams anxious, misfortune. And what mentally we find from Boric is apprehensive, weak memory, confused thought, spells are right, wrong words, and syllables, failing brain power. Here, Beretta is there in reference to failing brain power. Anacardium is there, phosphor is there, but we found that especially in reference to our repertorial analysis, these drugs were entirely missing, and they are only coming up in reference to our uh, comparison. In terms of comparison, we find them. So this is a very important group of drugs which we have in repertorial analysis. Altogether missed them. Altogether we have missed them. Veritacarb is also a very important remedy, which is a syphilitic miasmatic remedy, which can be one of the very important drugs which we lost in repertorial analysis. Anyway, cannot bear to see anything new, cannot read what he writes, and then mind confusion over daily affairs, mentally active but grows weaker. The Phatak tells us and radar tells us that mind confusion, weakness of memory, spells wrongly, misplaces words or syllabi. Mercury solubus is a syphilitic remedy, a very important remedy. And here what we find the most important symptom, mind hurried, rapid talking, tired of life, weakness of memory, loss of willpower. And then Boric materia medica tells us slow answering in questions, memory weak, loss of willpower, weakness of life, weary of life, mistrustful, thinks he is losing reason. And again, Phatak tells us memory weak. We have again 4 rubrics, and concentration difficult, calculating while is having highest mark over here. Inability in mathematics for 1 mark, mathematics inability calculating 1 mark, mistakes making calculating. So major area is calculation in reference to Merck. Now rest of the remedies are not constitutional to that effect. They are one-sided remedies, or you can say partially simillimum remedies. We have very few symptoms, like 3 rubrics, and they are also single marks each. So causticum is one remedy where we find there are classical symptoms of causticum are present over there, but mentally, mental fatigue, anxious, forbiddings, aggravate, twilight, reticent, oversympathetic. So these are the general characteristics. Mind gets tired, weak, breaks down, can't grasp ideas, deficiency of ideas, dullness, understand questions only after repetition, hurry while eating, feels as if he has forgotten something, must check it, ritualistic behavior. One kind of automation is there. So radar keynotes tells us something about his mental area, which may go in favor of it. But then on the whole, we have a very, very partial rubrics and very partial strength to go for causticum, unless and until we have certain concomitant symptoms of causticum are present. So this is one drug which we have dealt because it came in repertorial analysis. Similarly, Rustox also came into the repertorial analysis. It was not a very important remedy, but there are few symptoms which I could see in synthesis. There is a very forgetfulness, weakness of memory, cannot remember most recent things, want of ideas, want of mental energy, intelligence, difficult concentration, slowness of conception and mental dullness, difficulty to think and speak, to collect his ideas, a kind of stupidity, slow movement. When he wishes to write figure 2, he puts the figure 1 and cannot remember the figure, mental derangement, dreams of fire, anything. So these are the few things which, to my astonishment, I could see in synthesis. Otherwise, there was hardly anything available in other materia medica where this drug could compete for the prescription sake in case of dyscalculia, what I feel. But a few symptom synthesis are very strongly worded. Sumbul is the one medicine which has been coming very strongly with certain symptoms, mind, mathematics, inability for summing up, mistakes making calculating in adding. So everywhere only 3 symptoms, but they are in second grade. Other symptoms in the mental area is the emotional, fidgety, dull in the morning, clear in the evening, mistakes in writing and adding mistakes in writing. So dyslexia could be there associatedly, and there is other symptoms which are present, the reverse Kent-Repertory. In reverse Kent-Repertory, I could gather anxiety, dullness, sluggishness, difficulty of thinking and comprehending, fear, vertigo of, frightened and easily, hurried, restless, reading while, mental work impossible. So these are the symptoms for simple Boscov's. And the Staphylococcus in this particular series is the last medicine which we have. It has got total 3 symptoms. Each symptom has got 1 mark each. And the rubrics, mathematics inability for mind, mathematics inability for algebra, mathematics inability for calculating. And he writes that in case of radar keynote, vanishing of thoughts or mental exertion, sensation of wood or ball in the head, difficult concentration and forgetfulness. The rest of the things are very, very peculiar because this remedy has got a marked sexual appetite adapted to young men who is weak and debilitated because of onanism. Nervous, melancholic or depressed person is there, great nervous weakness, weakness of memory. So these are the general symptoms you will encounter, but this is also coming up in case of dyslexia, dyscalculia. However, while working up, I tried to work with the Murphy's repertory and could gather approximately 8 symptoms: mind, mathematics, general, algebra, inability to, mind, mathematics, general, calculating, inability to. Third is mind, mathematics, general, apt for, mind, mathematics, general, geometry, inability to, and mind, mathematics, general, horror of. So this symptom is a anxiety symptom, horror of mathematics. It is not really the dyscalculia. Mind, mathematics, general, inapt for, mind, mistake, general, calculating in, mind, mistake, general, calculating in adding. So these symptoms, when taken for repertorial analysis, I could find all the symptoms. They have only 2 different remedies came. One was Silesia and Alumina. The rest of the same remedies. In our previous repertorial analysis, we had Lux Omica as the highest grade. Here, Lycopodium came as the highest grade. So that was something very strange thing what I could see. Anyway, the rest of the remedies, only one addition is there, Crotellus horridus, which was there in bits. So we find that Silesia is one of the very important remedies that should not be missed. And we find that out of 8 rubrics, we had 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rubrics have been covered, and it has got a strength of 7. And the mind is anxious, yielding, mental labor very difficult, reading and writing fatigue, cannot bear things, children are obstinate, headstrong, and there is nothing much in terms of the mental, general or constitutional component, except these rubrics which tell us that this is a very strong contender for the as a remedy for dyscalculia. And similarly, Alumina, what we have been talking about, it is also having only 3 rubrics, and mind, mathematics, general geometry ability to do is the 2 number. So this is also very, very important remedy which we have missed in the previous our repertorial analysis when we have carried it out from radar. So rest of the symptoms are not very, very peculiar over here, small symptoms. Now what I find supplementary or supportive remedies, one is the Califos, which is a nerve tonic, and Brahmi mother tincture is Bacopa monri is also very important remedies which can be used safely in these particular situations where we have no clear-cut symptoms and you want to use it as a standby. For this work, we have the following bibliographical net references which we have taken, and with this I finish. Thank you very much for patient listening, and this is what I would like to share with you, and I now give the next session to Dr. Muktinder sir, who is going to take it up and supplement whatever I have initiated in this reference. So Muktinder sir, please carry forward. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your blessings. You are a great teacher and you have left nothing in the academics to be touched. So I would be directly starting my presentation with something which will be complementing what sir has taught and few my own experiences and some literature triers which I got, and I thought these are important from practical point of view. So with the permission of chair, I would like to start my presentation on this calculia. So this dyscalculia, as told by Dr. V.K. Chauhan sir, is a disease where the child start or has an inherited problem with understanding the mathematics and calculations. So 3 years back, I had a case. This was a case of a 12 years old girl which presented with brain fag-like symptoms. Parents started noticing that their child has not been as brilliant as she was earlier. So she was undergoing utter confusion and she was going weaker in grades since 1 year. So making more mistakes in mathematical calculations now, in which she was brilliant till 4th or 5th standard. Now she was in 6th standard when she was brought to me, 12-year-old child. So other symptoms were her vision is weakening, her optical number has increased since 1 year. Another thing was her complexion has started changing since 1 year. She has started growing darker in complexion. Earlier she was a fair girl. Now she has started growing the dark complexion. How it started was she was hospitalized for 2 weeks last year due to low fever with severe throat symptoms. So she was running fever for almost 2 weeks and there was some exanthemata, there was some red, dark colored spots on her body, which continued with severe bad throat. It was somewhat like measles, but not exactly the measles. And she was admitted in the hospital after 2 weeks of eruptive fever with above symptoms. So they undergone many tests shown to many pediatricians, but the problem and the fever was not going away. Ultimately, they admitted her to a pediatric hospital where she was managed with antibiotic, anti-allergics and anti-helminthic drugs. But ultimately, doctor told that there is something wrong with her immune system and she has to be given the IVIG therapy. What is IVIG therapy? It is intravenous immunoglobulin therapy. It's a very expensive therapy where the serum of blood is made and which is between 1,000 and 15,000 donor per batch. So it is some extracts of immuno extracts of blood from 1,000 to 15,000 donors per batch. So, and it is administered for the treatment of choice for the patient with antibody deficiencies. So they diagnosed that she need an aggressive antibiotic therapy. It was in lakhs, what the parents told. So she was managed accordingly. But after this IVIG therapy, she recovered. Her fever was gone and she was out of that hospital also. But there were a lot of changes in her behavior. She was more irritable. She was not that sharp as before falling sick. Her orientation was disturbed and she took long time to recover and was to miss school for almost 3 months. Now, after almost 9 months have passed, she has still not returned to her routines. That was their problem. She was favorite of math teacher, but now she avoids mathematics. This is how I am putting this case under the dyscalculia. So I took three simple repertorization I did. Mistakes in calculating because she was doing a lot of mistakes in calculations. Her discoloration of face because her face was remarkably dark. Earlier she was a very fair girl and now she is, all have started saying that she doesn't belong to her family because all her in family are very fair complexion. And third was that suppressed eruption. To my surprise, the repertorization revealed two remedies to me, lachesis and ailanthus. And from my clinical experience, because I have been watching pediatric patients and my friend Dr. Praveen Jain also, we have discussed many a times so many cases and we are quite familiar with the picture of lachesis. And that girl was no way lachesis because she was more of a irritable nature. There was not a very strong communication. So I decided to test this ailanthus for the first time in my practice 3 years back. So I undergone through the literature and I found some similarities between her episodes. So ailanthus glandulosa 203 doses were given in the period of almost 2 months. But to my surprise, after the first dose, 3 weeks, the child presented with a big smile. When the child entered, she was wearing specs. And in the first case taking, she was very dull child. But this time when she came with the presentation and for the follow-up, it was very big smile. Parents were happy. Interest in studies, especially mathematics, started resuming. Face discoloration started improving. And intellectual behavior was back to normal. So to my surprise, this ailanthus, which is not very commonly known, and through my practice, throughout my 30 years of practice, this was the first time I used this remedy. After that, I have started using this remedy with some successes and some failures. But this was my first encounter with this remedy. So when I retrospected the case, I found it a very important and very instrumental remedy in dyscalculia. So the rubrics we find in the repertory under which ailanthus is reported is concentration difficult while calculating, mathematics calculating inept for geometry, mistakes make calculating in additions. So see, it has such a variety, as Dr. V.K. Chauhan sir has shown that there are different type of dyscalculia and it is covering almost 3 type of shapes, structures, numbers. All 3 type of dyscalculia it is covering up. I'm not going back to what sir has told, but I'm just referring to what he has told. So This is called Elianthus comes, it's a kind of China tree. It is called a heaven tree. And I'm not going, so it has a strong element of suppression. When I went back into the literature, so stupor, delirium, insensibility after suppression, scarlet eruption, which was a fact in this case. That girl has a scarlatina type eruptive fever, dryness and suppressed secretions, face and forehead dark mahogany, suppressed scarlatina. So after suppressed scarlatina, if the patient start developing dark complexion, Elianthus is the remedy and urine suppressed. So if we go back to Allen's encyclopedia, we can clearly find this rubric: inability to concentrate mental effort, compelled to read a subject several times to get even a misty understanding of it. Usually when we read, we get a clear understanding. But here, what the proving symptom has revealed, that when Elianthus was proved, it developed this symptom that the person who was proving this remedy started developing an inability to concentrate mental effort and compelled to read a subject several times to get even a misty understanding. Even after reading it many times, one gets a very hazy and misty understanding of subject. Another rubric which I found in Allen's encyclopedia about Elianthus was confusion of intellect, found it almost impossible to add a column of figures. This is a dyscalculia symptom in proving. So see, the Elianthus has dyscalculia like creating the dyscalculia like pathology in its proving. As we know that Dr. Henneman has told that if a drug has a capacity to produce a pathology, so this is such a deep remedy for dyscalculia that even in proving, the provers found and reported that confusion of intellect, found it almost impossible to add a column of figures correctly, had to go over it several times to get it right. Another reference which I got into the literature was loss of memory, again in an encyclopedia, mental alienation, stupor, delirium, and insensibility after suppressed scarlatina, which we already have mentioned. Clark Dictionary said, since the poisoning of Elianthus, antecedent are forgotten. Means what? She knows previously or remembered as matters belonging to another or read about. So the person cannot recall what he has learned in the past, but he has been familiar with in the past. So this is another, and it is said that Pulford has very greatly mentioned about this poisonous effect of this Elianthus. They said that the domestic canary is a kind of bird which people pet, birds which are petted, small colorful sparrows. And they said that if you hang the canary under this tree when it is flowering, it will kill the canary. So its smell is such a vivid and such a strong smell that it causes asthma. This is also a mention into the poetry. And Elianthus, if we read from Phatak Materia Medica, they say it acts upon blood, disorganizing it and producing conditions like low fever, low types of eruptive diseases, and hemorrhagic diathesis. So that's why there is a livid like Veratrum viride. Veratrum viride has a kind of blanching eruptions. So it also has a blanching eruptions. So if it affects the throat, causing diphtheria and follicular tonsillitis, staphylococcus infection, skin appears livid or purplish, prostration is rapid, lividity, stupor, fetor, and malignancy are marked condition, discharges and things. So this is the cause. This disorganizing of blood is the cause of dark complexion which develops. So this was some finding which I retrospected a case and I could connect it with this case. So I hope this will help serve many purposes because I'm not going into the details of Elianthus anymore. Another remedy which even Dr. V.K. Chauhan sir has mentioned is syphilinum. So again, this I have another case. It's if you go to the repertory, you find mistakes in calculating, mathematics inept for, concentration difficult while calculating, confusion while calculating, mistakes make calculating in, and slowness in calculation. If you find another remedy which is coming very close is Nux vomica and Sorinum. So syphilinum I have found of great help, because in some of the cases where syphilinum is indicated, that children which are born syphilitic, they have distorted faces, they have syphilitic constitutions, bony distortions. I recently had a case which was born with teeth. When that child was born, he had few teeth in the mouth because it was a delayed birth, and mother actually died during the labor. So this child was syphilitic, and this child had a particular tendency of this picture which I am showing you, that it was a delayed growth, later on static troubles of spine. This syphilinum I have taken from Julian Materia Medica of Nosotros. They say it is retarded intellect with difficulty in mathematics and also in grammar. So their intellect is retarded. So seaside aggravation, and we know that nightly aggravation is a syphilitic constitution special feature, that syphilinum, they have night aggravations. Intellectual paresia, it's a kind of paralysis of intellect with particular difficulty in mathematics and language. This is what Dr. Julian has written about syphilinum. And these are the delinquent children. Delinquent children are spoiled kids. These are the children which always get punishment. They are very hard to manage in the school. They are cruel, they harm, they disturb the whole class. So these are the children who actually are sent to the juvenile jails. So particular difficulty for learning mathematics and also language. Characteristical instability with aggressiveness, anger, and association in band. Means this, when aggressiveness, instability, and anger, they come in a combination in a person, in a children who are oftenly getting punished in the school. And as Dr. Chauhan sir has mentioned, that there is a want of moral feeling. They are anti-social. So if an anti-social child having no interest, I remember one of the person who was a dropper, school dropper, had succeeded in a factory, and ultimately when he told his story, he told that in the childhood I always got punished, and I was one who was considered as the boss or the criminal in the school. I never wanted to lead a gang, but always people, my colleagues, they used to follow me, and I was ultimately, once I had a workshop which was skill-based workshop, and I excelled in that. When no one was able to do a certain task, I was the only person. But in academics and in mathematics, I was zero. So these kind of children, they need to be supervised under this NSQF mission. India central government has started a mission of NSQF. We as a physician has a duty that if such a child are reported to us, we should guide the parents that don't force this kind of children in academics. Take them out of this academic routine academics. They can send them to open school, or they can train them for some kind of skill-based education, because even in foreign now skill development is more important than the academics. So these kids, they are a dropper in the school, but if you channelize their energy because of their syphilitic traits, if you could channelize, they can excel in their field. So these delinquent children sometimes are of syphilinum, and after homeopathy, their syphilitic miasm, when is blunted down, they start settling into the society. So another reference which Dr. Julian has given, that it is the cancer child who lags behind in the class, whose results in orthography, grammar, language, and especially in mathematics make their teacher and parents hopeless. So these are another, because of the syphilis, getting cancer at a very early age is syphilitic. And out of that syphilis, their faculties, their coordination between right and left brain is lost. So they are very hard to carry on their academics. So this syphilinum can help these children very well. Allen Keynotes mentions a one-liner about syphilinum is that there is loss of memory, cannot remember names of books, persons or places. Arithmetical calculations are difficult for them. So Allen Keynotes even mentions syphilinum. We know that Allen Keynotes has a very limited symptoms in it, and the symptoms which are present in Allen Keynotes are worth characteristics. So every word written in Allen Keynotes represent a whole story behind it. Boric Materia Medica about syphilinum says that loss of memory, remembers everything previous to his illness. So as Dr. Chauhan has mentioned, that the child fell sick with some syphilitic kind of presentation, and after that, when he came back from that sickness, he has lost all what he has studied. So we have to understand these remedies. Another constitutional, because these remedies, syphilinum, sorinum, tuberculinum, these has great value in our practice as intercurrent remedies also. Sometimes when we are stuck up with some case, even the indicated remedies are not giving the proper desired results, we have to resort upon these remedies many times. But important is that we should not follow a formula kind of practice. We should see for the indication, whether it is sorinum or tuberculinum or syphilinum or any other nosode is indicated, medorinum. So they have their own indications. Don't try to use them blindly, that intercurrent remedies are not blind prescription. Intercurrent remedies are great skill to be used. They have to be used relevantly, not as a routine ritual. So when I repertorized the dyscalculia symptoms of sorinum, I found it going along with syphilinum. Mathematics calculating inept for, concentration difficult calculating while, confusion calculating one, and mistakes make calculating in. So when I went through this picture, I tried to correlate it in the literature. So Vermeulen's Materia Medica says that sorinum has weak memory, can't remember, doesn't even know his room, and sentimental. So he cannot recall the things placed in his rooms, in his own room. Very sentimental, because we know there is a strong anxiety concerns in sorinum. Despair of recovery is very marked. Severe ailments from even slight emotions. So sorinum is a remedy which we find. I recently had a very good case where I was using Ignatia as a constitutional remedy. But in between, this sorinum was very instrumental in restoring the amenorrhea, because anytime, whenever there was some emotions, even the school stress or anything, this girl started using missing the periods, and when her periods are not coming in time, she is having low grades in studies. Her concentration in studies used to fall. So usually I used to give Ignatia to that girl, but recently in one of the repertorization, and when I was going through some literature, I found this reference of sorinum. So slight emotions, when they are affecting our patients very deeply, must remember sorinum. Great depression of mind during climaxes. So hormones, emotions, and intellect. When these three things are related, we can think of sorinum. And chronic abdominal disorders. Stomach is never good. So Suriname has pessimism, thinks he's very ill when he is not. This delusion sick. So always thinking that I'm not right, मैं तो हमेशा बीमार ही रहता हूँ. Thoughts which he cannot get rid of constantly reappear in his dreams. Despair of recovery, especially after typhus. Amelioration, epistaxis. And this particular dyscalculia symptom in inability for calculating due to confusion of senses. Feels are restless in his blood days before and during a thunderstorm. So thunderstorm is affecting, weather changes are affecting, emotions are affecting, and as I told, that intellect is getting affected and pessimism is overpowering. So when you find this combination, Suriname can be of great help as an intercurrent remedy. Another remedy which I found of great help, and Dr. Chauhan sir has also mentioned, is Calcarea cow. So I wanted to discuss this remedy because I'm leaving Baraita cow, because Baraita we all know is a duffer remedy. It's a remedy of very low intellect. It's a remedy where mathematics is a problem. But I have found Calcarea is milder than Baraita into the clinical presentations, because Calcarea can still do it, but Baraita is unable to do it. So in Calcarea, it is not the inability, it is an inhibition to do the things. This is very important, as Dr. Chauhan sir saying that it is not his inability, it is his anxiety, it is his panic, it is his thought process which is inhibiting him to be sharp. So if we go through the rubrics, it is slowness, aversion, inept for astronomy, geometry, then mistakes in distinguishing, differentiating, mistaking in writing. He has clear it in mind, but while writing, he'll make a mistake. And then is loss of memory and fear of failure of business. And now out of struggle, what others will say is the main problem. Sabse bada rog kya kahenge log. This is what Calcarea suffers from. And when this, I went through the literature in Allen's encyclopedia, because Calcarea, there's number of cases where we use Calcarea for the dyslexic children, for the slow children, for the cautious children, for the timid children, for the insecure children, the discord between parents or any separation of joint family to nuclear family, the change in the school, the change in the class, all these things, they affect the Calcarea. So when they are under stress, so I once had a Calcarea child, which I prescribed Calcarea Mur, was that doctor, his first trimester is always bad. Second trimester is a balancer, and in last 2 trimesters of his studies, he is always excellent. The first trimester, zeros. First trimester, the same child, which has scored the perfect 100 in the last class, when he goes to the next class, or there is a change in teacher, change in syllabus, change in classroom, all these things, they affect him so badly that he just drops to 0. And as his mid-session, after mid-session, he starts speaking because he's a hard worker. Otherwise, Calcareas are very lazy. But this child had a different story and he was never showing. And ultimately, he picks up, works hard because he's sensitive to the opinion of others. And ultimately, he scores very well. So he misplaces words and easily chooses a wrong expression. This is what the silly mistakes. The Calcareas, they do the silly mistakes. And Clark Dictionary says loss of sense and errors of imagination. What he thinks, he cannot execute that. Thinking and execution has. That's why they have to think more. Like alumina, it is confused, head belongs to other. But in Calcarea, this is loss of sense and errors of imagination. And Calcarea ka Dr. Hahnemann's chronic disease, Dr. Hahnemann Master mentions that she confounds words and is apt to use wrong expressions. So what they wanted to show, though mother says that she works very hard, but in the presentation when she's making projects, she misplaces the things. It is not like Baraita. It is then if they are made comfortable, they can perform well. So Borland children type, Dr. Borland, which was the first ever book on pediatrics, he said they will not strive at this subject, but just give in. And if they are not sure of themselves, nothing will ever induce them to answer questions in the class. In case they are wrong, will be laughed at. So this Baryta and Calcarea shear being observed, being laughed at, both the remedies has. But Baryta starts believing that I have no legs, my legs are short, so I cannot learn. So they give up, but they work hard. But in case of mathematics, they again are never very excellent. And Dr. Sholton in Minerals about calcareas, when he's writing, he says if you are constantly busy comparing yourself to others, this is what calcarea inhibitions are. You will naturally get many fears. That's why you can seminar 88, what he refers says that calcarea is the most common remedy for fears. Fear of being disapproved of leads to the fear to be abnormal or to have abnormal things. And so there is the fear of loss, fear of disease, poverty, future, that something will go wrong. And all this often belong, anything is really happening, a strong anticipatory fear. So that is the basic pathology of calcareas. Now I'm quoting a very interesting thing. Dr. J.P. Galverding, he was a basically converted homeopath. So French Orthodox physician, he was an allopath. And when the popularity of homeopathy was rising, so he converted to homeopathy. He is known to be in the literature. If you go, he has written many controversial things. And here also what I'm saying would be seeming very strange to you. But I have seen some connection between calcarea and mathematics. So to gain, he just converted to homeopathy to gain international renown. Galverdin was a physician at homeopathic hospital in Lyons. What he writes in his book of psychic prescription, a single dose of calcarea carb, 200 or 300, given once, develops habitually the taste and aptitude for mathematics at the end of 3, 5 or 8 weeks. He says that don't tell to the patient that you are given some medicine, give them, it will help their instantaneousness to improve, and you will buy. He says that out of 10, he gets result in 7 patients. In order, he write about calcarea carb inaptitude for mathematics, Galverdin psychic remedies. He says in order to develop the taste and aptitude for the mathematics, I'm very often consulted. I'm successful at least 7 cases out of 10. He says I give a blind prescription without telling to the patient. I give single dose of calcarea carb 200 or 300 and leave the patient. And after 3, 5 or 7 weeks, he starts observing, the parents start reporting that their children is performing better in mathematics. This was something very strange and interesting for me. A few years ago, what Dr. Galverdin says that I treated a young man who was studying specially mathematics for being admitted in the Polytechnic school. As he had many successive attacks of pulmonary tuberculosis, I gave him every 3 to 6 weeks, 6 to 7 globules of calcarea carb, 300. He remarked that each dose of his medicine, by relieving him cerebral fatigue, gave him some taste for mathematics. So that was his trouble. So these are some things which are which we have in our literature, and we must give it a open-hearted thoughts that how we can utilize the information given. Here he is saying that pulmonary tuberculosis, and we know calcarea carb is an excellent remedy for pulmonary tuberculosis, but pulmonary tuberculosis affecting and causing the cerebral fatigue. And out of that cerebral fatigue, or we know that dyslexia has its root in parietal areas. And this fatigue was wasting away or getting recovered very fast with the dose of calcarea carb 300. Our masters, they used to use the odd potencies. Now we are stuck to 200, 1M and 10M. They used to use these odd potencies. So here he has mentioned Calcarea carb 300. Calcarea phos is another mentioning remedy. Here he says, like the other calcareas, there is embarrassing forgetfulness. Forgets what he has done a few moments before, writes wrong word or repeats word in talking and writing. There is a spirit of indefiniteness due to an inability to concentrate his thoughts long enough on one point to make a decision. There is also a spirit of dullness associated with the frontal headache, and no matter what the discomfort may be, they are aggravated by mental and physical exertion. So mental labor is one of the most annoying things this remedy has to do. And because of this, any effort to do any thinking invite peevishness, irritability, and obstinacy. Why I'm doing this remedy is because I have a case of severe rickets, where I used Calcarea phos and his intellect improved a lot. His performance in grades, no doubt we would not much improve the disability, this arched legs, but his intellect was improved. Earlier he was dull child, not able to study, but then he excelled in studies after prescribing Calcarea phos 1 as a constitutional remedy. Another remedy which I mentioned, because there are so many remedies, even conium, Dr. Chauhan sir has talked about alumina, Staphylococcus, all these remedies, I have many cases, but I'm trying to quote certain things to complement sir's presentation, because he has very elaboratively talked about the constitutional remedies, partially indicated remedies, but I'm supplementing those remedies with some additional knowledge. He speaks incorrectly. Allen's encyclopedia says about ammonium carb. So ammonium carb, we all know, is a patient who has a lot of rancor, lot of hatred, and a negative character, very offensive, aversion to bathing, not very organized child, but they are very artistic. So he speaks incorrectly, speaks wrong word without wishing it, uses one word for another in speaking, wrong letters and figure in writing or ciphering. This is a proving symptom now. Now, when the person tries to write something but end up writing something else, this is the remedy. Very forgetful and headache when reflecting. So when they try to concentrate, they start getting headache. Loss of train of thoughts. Dr. T.F. Allen says about ammonium carb is loss of train of thoughts when telling a story and hitting upon wrong thoughts and expression. So as expression in mathematics, you need to have a chain of thoughts. And this chain of thoughts is broken. He's starting, the teacher says, sometimes seems that his concepts are right, but while expressing himself, he in between does some silly mistakes and ends up in the wrong answer. This is what ammonium carb is. Bonning-Ossen characteristic says difficult thinking, easily makes mistakes in talking and writing, forgetful and distracted, sadness and weeping, with fears and presentiment of impending evil, very peevish and ill-humoured during cloudy weather, satiety of life, disobedient children. Syphilinum, ammonium carb, these are disobedient children. So if you see the rubrics related to ammonium carb, I am referring this through a case because I'm not presenting this case today. So memory weakness, expressing oneself as you told, and especially after head injuries. And he forgets that, as we have found, that train of thoughts, they are distracted. So what I was about to tell, I just forget and I'm not able to connect. Sudden and periodical weakness, loss of memory, and sudden periodical after pain or fright, he forgets everything. Loss of vertigo, loss of memory with vertigo, and loss of memory, aggravation from vexation. गुस्सा आता है तो सब पड़ा पड़ा है भूल जाता है. So I'm mentioning some of the remedies, and I hope we are running out of time. I would be completing this presentation and later on carrying on at some other instances. This is a long presentation. So I hope you learned something out of my experiences. I thank Dr. V.K. Chauhan sir, and I think we can have a short session of question answers. If you have some questions, you can raise your hands, or just I would allowing to unmute yourself. You can unmute and ask the questions. Thank you, Dr. Chauhan, sir. I hope I could justify the topic some way, because it is always a kind of nervousness presenting in front of seniors. So please unmute yourself. Please unmute.
Well, such a subject has big dimension and nobody can master. Everybody has his area of liking and they keep on reading in that particular area. So we find your area is in the materia medica. Materia medica is the ocean. What you read, what you remember, what are the different spectrums are there, different doctors are there, different expressions are there. And we need to express ourselves collectively. It becomes a big problem in homeopathy. So whatever we are doing, we have a limited amount of ideas which we try to convert into the words and ultimately share with our friends. We have a lot of deficiency, we accept. There is nothing wrong with that. And unless and until, even if I am going to commit a mistake, I am going to learn from the mistake. And every time I have learned from the mistakes. And during entirely in my career, what I know, I have not learned that much from my teachers as much as I have learned from my students. They have compelled me to read. Nobody could compel me that much as my students. And I still find there are such good students are there and they will keep you on your toes always. So we have learned different shades of different materia medica, and it is very interesting to understand those particular things. And we need such people who are dedicated in learning from homeopathic point of view. We also need people who are going to have the current considerations of medical knowledge and dissipate, bring it in the mainstream of our homeopathy. So everybody has his own due and everybody has been having his own way and area how to enrich the experience and share the experience. So we'll be open to any type of question that will be very good.
So there's a question, Dr. Vaishali Vyas is asking, does it come under dyscalculia if person can solve written mathematical calculations but unable to do it practically, for example, during shopping, can't calculate because become confused that how to calculate and always makes mistakes in calculations?
Looks like if he has, if you have to write, you have to first think, convert that into the writing. It means your area of the brain where the mathematics is there, which is correct. Then transmission to the motor area is correct. Writing is graphical presentation in different languages, whatever language you have learned, that too also is excellent. You understand different, you can say, symbols. You can write down those symbols. You can tell those symbols. So you are not suffering from dyscalculia, but then you are a nervous person. You are an anxious person. You become anxious and overtly panicked and that particular situation, if people are watching you probably and you bungle up, you need to have lot of confidence. Lack of confidence can create this kind of a problem. So it is a very interesting thing to know, but then to my mind, such a person is definitely not a fit case to be called as dyscalculia. It is a symptom of simple anxiety, performance anxiety. When you have to perform something in front of 2 or 3 people, you are afraid that people are watching me and how I am going to do it. It is a kind of a social anxiety. So I think in terms of those lines.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Vishal Chadda, you want to ask something? You have raised the hand. You can
Yes,
unmute yourself.
yes, sir.
Yes.
I have unmuted myself. Thank you. Sir, has it anything to do with the practice part in calculus? Because we are discussing about diseases altogether, but I understand mathematics is a mere practice, or the person who are readily doing it in the ready jobs, like the Parchunwala, the salesperson. Even if they are not very intellectual persons, but they can calculate it because of the habit. And this is one of the area we must not overlook. This is my observation. I would like a comment from Dr. Chauhan, sir.
Is what we see uneducated people are doing maths very rightly. It is a common sense they are doing. But then advanced maths, you will get certain questions in general knowledge, or there are fill in the blanks in UPSC, which particularly structured to see different areas of your ability in terms of mathematics. So they are very specialized people. They observe your intellectual capacities in different components. So even we do not know, because generally we have not in that particular area, mathematics. So many things I may be missing in this particular context. So I think maths is a very wide area. Advanced maths is further very wide area. People
I
are
would
there.
like to add here, Dr. Vishal Chadda.
Because
I think what you are saying is that practice makes a man perfect, but there are many people in the learning disability who are, even after practice, they are not able to pick up certain subjects. So dyscalculia would be a domain where even after practice, you are not getting the desired
yes,
result. So we
that's
level
what
up it over there.
that's what,
Not that mathematics, if someone is practicing more, is more familiar. That is a faculty of human brain. But
yes,
still, after practice, if someone is not able to pick up, then we can label it as discuss.
definitely. This was my. That's what I wanted to just highlight that point, because more of these days the people are not practicing mathematics, and they just want this. Yes, मैंने देख लिया तो हो जाना चाहिए. और यूपीएससी में भी सर जो रीजनिंग और उसके क्वेश्चंस होते हैं, these questions are definitely based on the practice part only. How much you have practiced over years and how much your brain is trained. Lekin Dr. Muktinder Singh has rightly pointed out, even if after doing that, when there are confusions and other areas, yes, then only the medicine part should come up.
Thank you. Someone, Dr. Angel has asked that if someone is not able to remember the phone numbers, is it dyscalculia? I won't think this is dyscalculia. This is lack of memory. This is poor memory or poor practice again. It is not a dyscalculia. Dyscalculia is inability to make the calculations or understand the concepts of mathematics, not about the remembrance. So it is about the mistakes and the silly mistakes, or that inadvertent or involuntary, or those mistakes. So I think Delhi IAHP, thank you all. Now we have to wind up. Dr. Geeta, please come up with the conclusion of the seminar, and then we'll invite Dr. Tanveer Hussain for the final conclusion.
From Delhi State Branch, I thanks all the delegates and both of you, Dr. Chauhan and Dr. Muktinder Singh. And it was really a very good interactive session. And you can proceed to Dr. Tanveer.
Yes, Dr. Tanveer, if you are there, please unmute yourself.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mukhinder Singh. First of all, good evening, everybody. Khan sir, namaskar. Good evening, sir. First of all, I would like to congratulate and thanks to Dr. Respected V.K. Chauhan sir for his wonderful journey of today's topic, dyscalculia. He has taken up the initiative from the very beginning, from the very definition, and then this one, then the symptomatology, prognosis, even he has covered almost everything from the disease part of this topic, which Dr. Honeyman says that the physician should have the knowledge about the disease. So he has thrown very bright light on this topic. So many things we have learned, sir, from you today. Very new things we have learned from you, the technical terms about this calculia. So thank you very much for this initiative. This was very wonderful session with you, sir. It was a very great journey of today's topic with you. And it was very beautifully complemented by Dr. Mukhinder Singh, who has complemented with his experiences, with his cases practically. So to make the topic more understanding for the audience. So thank you both of today's important speakers. We would like to hear you in the future also about this series of psychiatric disorders. If you have, we can arrange other webinars also for the same kind of series, sir. So thank you very much from the core of this heart, because we have learned lot many things from you today. The materia medica part was also discussed very nicely from Dr. V.K. Chauhan sir and Dr. Mukhinder Singh also. I have also this experience of treating some of the cases where patient was not able to calculate mathematically. Calcarea car was my one of the kind of favorite medicine. Most of the time I have prescribed Calcarea carb with good results. So the experience of Dr. Galavardan was, I compliment his experiences, because it is the medicine which is of great value for this disease, dyscalculia. Even Dr. Mukhinder has compared most of the medicines like sorainum, syphilinum, tuberculinum. The new medicine I have listened today, Erianthus glandulosa. He has treated one case of this disease. Thank you very much, Dr. Mukhinder Singh, for throwing the bright light on this topic. So it was a great webinar today. After that, I go to our spinal cord of IAHP national body. I thank respected Dr. V.K. Gupta sir, who is president of our president of honor of national body IAHP, who is always a great support for IAHP, followed by respected Dr. M.A. Rao sir, our national president, who is doing untiring work for IAHP. Day and night he is doing his duty very devotedly. He is totally full-time devotee person to IAHP. Thank you very much, Dr. M.A. Rao sir, for being with us, for guiding us, for supporting us. And I thank our Dr. Sudhanshu Arya, my dear friend, Dr. Sudhanshu Arya, who is our webmaster, who is taking pains to upload these valuable videos, these educational videos on our IAHP portal. He's taking a lot of pains.
It's 6 o'clock.
And today I congratulate especially Dr. Sudhanshu Arya, our managing editor for our e-journal of Rational Physicians. This journal was long awaited. It was after long gap. It came again with the guidance of our Dr. M.A. Rao sir and with the whole team of scientific committee. So thank you one and all. And I thank all the CEC members who are there, and all the, especially I thank Delhi State Branch, who has taken special, who had played special instrumental role to bring these two speakers in IHP platform. So thank you very much all Delhi State Branch. I thank all the audience who has given their qualitative and quantitative time to listen these two speakers. Thank you very much once again. Thank you very much, sir. V.K. Chauhan sir, we would look forward to listen from you more in the future. Thank you, sir. Dr. Mukhinder Singh, thank you. Dr. Geeta Mongia, I can see you. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, one and all. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Tanveer. So we'll be closing the meeting now, and we'll be uploading the recording on the YouTube very soon. Thank you, Delhi State Branch. Thank you, Dr. V.K. Chauhan. Thank you, CEC committee, for giving us this opportunity to be together. Hope you all enjoy well and be safe. Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Dr. Muktinder.